Please rise as you are able. I now call this meeting of City Council to order.
The City of Barrie acknowledges the traditional territory of the Anishinaabe people, which include the Odawa, Ojibwe, and Potawatomi nations, collectively known as the Three Fires Confederacy. We also acknowledge the Wendat Nation Huron, who occupied these lands prior to the middle of the 17th century. We're dedicated to honoring Indigenous history and culture and recognize the enduring presence of Indigenous peoples on this land. We're committed to moving forward in a spirit of reconciliation and respect with all First Nations, Métis, and Inuit people. You may be seated. Well, welcome to Barrie City Council, and we've got a full house this evening. Tonight's a special night as we're going to be completing the 2026 budget for city operations and for our capital budget. And it wouldn't be the council chambers without our student mayor, His Worship Giovanni Saldana Carrera, representing St. Marguerite DeVille Catholic Elementary School. Welcome again to tonight's meeting. Good week? Wonderful. Okay, so we've been able to go through, we're in the confirmation of the minutes. Are there any corrections to the minutes from the meeting from November 5th? Seeing there's none, the minutes are adopted as printed. And we're going to move into committee reports. Deputy Mayor, I believe that's you. You have the motions.
Thank you, Mayor Nuttall. Moved by myself, seconded by Councillor Negussi, that Section A, the General Committee Report dated November 5th, 2025, now circulated, be received.
It's moved by Deputy Mayor Thompson, seconded by Councillor Negussi, that Section A of the General Committee Report dated November 5th, 2025, now circulated, be received. This is 25G231, Report of the Executive Committee dated October 29th, 2025. 25G232, Report of the Finance and Responsible Governance Committee dated October 29th, 2025. Any questions or comments from members of council? Seeing none, all those in favor? It carries. Deputy Mayor.
Moved by myself, second by Councillor Negussi, that Section B of the General Committee Report dated November 5th, 2025, now circulated, be adopted.
It's moved by Deputy Mayor Thompson, seconded by Councillor Negussi, that Section B of the General Committee Report dated November 5th, 2025, now circulated, be adopted. 25G233, 25G234, 25G235. These are the confidential acquisition of land matter for Bradford Street, the acquisition of land matter for Bradford Street, and 2025 Q3 year-to-date internal audit status update. Are there any questions or comments with regards to these motions? I'm seeing none, so all those in favor? And it carries. We'll now move on to the next item, which is Deputy Mayor.
Moved by myself, second by Councillor Negussi, that Section C of the General Committee Report, November 5th, now circulated, be adopted.
It's moved by Deputy Mayor Thompson, seconded by Councillor Negussi. The Section C of the General Committee Report dated November 5th, 2025, now circulated, be adopted. This is 25G236, 2026 Business Plan and Budget, City Operations and Infrastructure Investment Funding portions. Are there any questions or comments from members of Council this evening? Deputy Mayor Thompson.
Thank you, Mayor Nuttall. I have a few amendments, if I may. Moved by myself, second by Councillor Negussi, that motion 25G236 of Section C of the General Committee Report dated November 5th, 2025 concerning the 2026 Business Plan and Budget, City Operations and Infrastructure Investment Fund portion be amended by adding the following paragraph. That two of the following officers, either the mayor, clerk, chief financial officer, or treasurer or their delegates, be authorized to execute agreements that may be required to accept grant funding for other levels of government and partners to reduce expenditures assets, assist with program services and capital projects. And I could speak to it, but it's pretty self-explanatory.
It's moved by Deputy Mayor Thompson, seconded by Councillor Negussi, that motion 25G236 of Section C of the General Committee Report dated November 5th, 2025 concerning the 2026 Business Plan and Budget, City Operations and Infrastructure Investment Funding portions be amended by adding the following paragraph. That two of the following officers, either the mayor, clerk, chief financial officer, and treasurer, or their designates, be authorized to execute any agreements that may be required to accept grant funding from other levels of government or their partners to reduce expenditures associated with program services and capital projects. Deputy Mayor, do you want to give a quick explanation or no?
Yeah. So basically what it's doing is it's giving delegated authority at times where there's some funding opportunities where council may not be sitting or it's time. So it's giving delegated authority to the mentioned people to try to get as much grant funding as possible.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Any other questions or comments on the motion? I'm seeing none. All those in favor? Carries. Deputy Mayor.
I have another amendment moved by myself, second by Councillor Negussi, that motion 25G236, Section C of the General Committee Report dated November 5th, 2025 concerning the 2026 Business Plan and Budget, City Operations, Infrastructure and Investment Funding portion be amended by adding the following paragraph. A, the ecological offset policy be amended as followed. Those who are in compliance with the ecological permit process, including not limited to obtaining the proper permits prior to tree cutting, to defer any ecological offset greater than 25,000 until occupancy, the first permit for both residents and non-residential use is issued. B, the deferral of payment of fees of any amount is not available for any tree removed without a permit. And C, that a one-time non-transferable deferral of payment of fees be secured by an agreement registered on title. And I can speak to that.
It's moved by Deputy Mayor Thompson, seconded by Councillor Negussi, that motion 25G236 of Section C of the General Committee Report dated November 5th, 2025 concerning the 2026 Business Plan and Budget, City Operations and Infrastructure Investment Funding portions be amended by adding the following paragraphs. A, that the ecological offset policy be amended to allow for those who are in compliance with the ecological permit process, including and not limited to obtaining the proper permits prior to tree cutting, to defer any ecological offsetting payment greater than $25,000 until occupancy, the first permit for both residential and non-residential uses is issued. B, that deferral of the payment of fees of any amount is not available for any trees removed without a permit. And C, that a one-time non-transferable deferral of the payment of fees be secured by an agreement registered on title. Deputy Mayor.
Thank you, Mayor Nuttall. So this council has taken a very bold approach on development, and we've tried to do anything possible to lessen the upfront costs. It's been a little bit of a hindrance to development. So by doing this, it kind of puts it in line with some of our DC deferrals. And why there's a few things. I don't want anybody who's cut illegal trees down to think that this is their exit. If you didn't follow the rules, you're not you're not eligible for this incentive. And working with staff, and thank you for all your help, the amount of 25, there's some, as little as $1,500 and stuff. And so to register a deferral and go through all the process, it's actually not an effective use of resources, and the administration nightmare. So we've come to a happy medium, and we have ecological offsets in surplus. And I think Councillor Reitman and I had spoke that there's probably something in the near future where we could maybe find a path forward to planting as many trees as we possibly can in light of the ice storm and stuff. But I think this is another example of Barrie being very bold and doing everything we possibly can with the tools in our toolbox to incentivize development, to try to get us out of this housing crunch.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Any other questions or comments from members of council? I'm seeing none. All those in favor? And it's approved. We have the budget now twice amended. And we have one more from Deputy Mayor Thompson.
Sorry, Mayor Nuttall, but this is my last one of the evening. It's moved by myself and seconded by Councillor Morales that motion 25G236 of Section C of the General Committee report dated November 5th, 2025 concerning the 2026 business and budget city operations and infrastructure investment funding portion be amended by adding the following paragraph: that a one-time funding of $530,000 be provided to the downtown Barrie Business Improvement Area for the purpose of funding 2025 and 2026 events and operational costs, with $475K being allocated from the Tourist Reserve and $55,000 from the Tax Rate Stabilization Reserve. B, that staff report back to the Infrastructure and Investment Committee regarding operational and infrastructure incentives in support of events and festivals in the downtown. And I can speak to that.
It's moved by Deputy Mayor Thompson, seconded by Councillor Morales, that motion 25G236 of Section C of the General Committee report dated November 5th, 2025, concerning the 2026 business plan and budget, city operations and infrastructure investment funding portions be amended by adding the following paragraph. A, the one-time funding of $530K be provided to the downtown Barrie Business Improvement Area for the purpose of funding the 2025-26 events and operational costs, with $475K being allocated from the Tourism Reserve and $55K from the Tax Rate Stabilization Reserve. B, that staff report back to the Infrastructure and Community Investment Committee regarding operational infrastructure initiatives in support of events and festivals in the downtown. Deputy Mayor.
Thank you, Mayor Nuttall. So a little bit of history, if you allow. It started off a few years ago, 2 years ago. We had a music festival. We took some funding that was being used for an operation that wasn't really, wasn't doing what we thought it would do. And we started out with a lot of local artists and stuff like that. And then, if I can be frank, you actually seen the opportunity and grew it immensely. And seeing the outcome of it it's something that, brings out people in our downtown for all the right reasons. It exposes that downtown is a beautiful place that we invest in as a council. And, I think of, things like the affordability of life today. And there's a lot of people that, wouldn't get out of their house. They wouldn't go to a concert if, it had to pay. And, we have, I'm going to say movie night at Meridian. I know there's fancy names, but I'd rather speak in plain English. It's a concert series, and we play movies at Meridian for families, which, in an expensive world right now for families, and we as a council are investing in the quality of life of people, and it's been a great success, and I would love to build on the momentum of everything that's occurred in the last year. Seeing, from the opening concert of about 8,500 people and right into the end with, lots of activities and stuff, keeping the numbers up in that range. I think the economic spin-off for our downtown and the exposure from people all over, I think that's something that this council understands, that, you know, the city goes with the downtown, so.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Any other questions or comments from members of, I've got Councillor Kunkel.
Thank you, through you, Mayor Nuttall, to Deputy Mayor Thompson. Thank you for the context around it. I'm not necessarily opposed to it, but more of a question around, I'm trying to put this in the context of, is this atypical, or are we in some way, is this funding to expand programs and it's net new one-time dollars to kind of give seed funding to allow that expansion to happen? Or is this a forecasted need for recovery in any way because of the shortfall, because of the economic climate? I know we're seeing things down across the board. So is it to maintain current that has taken on a greater forecasted operating expense for next year, so we're not reducing anything? Or is it for the sole purpose of expanding and enhancing? If it's fair to ask you, okay.
Through you, Mayor Nuttall. So great question. So it's a little bit of both. Seeing the success of it, you know, sometimes successful events come with unforeseen expenses, garbage collection, security and stuff. And actually the section B of it, and I'll let Councilor Morales, who seconded, and I know he's been discussing this around the table, and when he was the chair of the BIA, some of the costs that that the BIA endured, between 75 and 100,000 just in the temporary bollards. I don't think they're called that. They're the new style ones that flip over. I'm not sure if they're still referred to as a bullard, but you know, a cost like that, you know, in light of what's happened, I think people are a little bit more sensitive of the importance of closures and good closures of streets. So it's a little bit of that, and booking artists sooner than later gives you a better opportunity at the pool of artists that are available, and it's probably more cost effective. So the money is for some of that, and we've made an investment in it. So because it was a lot, I should say it was more successful than we kind of forecast. So that's why there's a little bit more of an investment, so that we're able to, you know, do everything in our power to have the best sort of concert series.
I'm going to redirect part of your question over to Councilor Morales with regards to the improvements, the physical improvements that are needed, and I'm going to consider this not a speaking opportunity, but an answer to the question. So, Councilor Morales. That doesn't mean go on for 10 minutes.
Any technicality you want to call it. All I'm seeing is my microphone is on. Thank you, Deputy Mayor Thompson. You described it pretty accurately. So the reason we're discussing this is due to the very success of Open Air Dunlop, of the pedestrianization of our downtown community. The old days of, you know, take out a portable blockade or giant cone and a security card, we have succeeded our way out of that. And so as a result, the strategy is retractable bollards, which are permanent infrastructure, which is safe infrastructure. You know, I don't think I need to remind anybody of the Terrorism Act in Vancouver and elsewhere. And it's also more practical. You know, if we're going to pay for bodies at the festival, we want them activating and doing things, not necessarily standing there. And I believe that the retractable bollards, when I went back when I was a chair of the BIA, and I actually like spoke to a vendor who was in this line of business. It's very limited people, and I was getting a scope of the work. It wasn't yet to go to tender. It is compliant with requirements that the fire department need or other emergency response. So because we're now at the point where we want to continue this activation, it's now at the point where it's better to invest in that permanent public infrastructure instead of having this reoccurring cost. And so the success is why we're here.
Councillor Kunkel.
Thank you, through you, Mayor Nuttall. I appreciate that clarification and love hearing that that's being looked at. I know that's been a conversation around this table and a high interest around really looking at pedestrianizing open air Dunlop and extending that. And that's always kind of come into conflict with who's doing it and who's available and on a weekend and how do you activate that from a safety measure. So I think that's wonderful. And so maybe one comment, I'll frame it into a question. How restrictive are we? And I'm assuming it'll just be left up to the BIA to identify, how best to use this, report back or share back how they've done it. But I guess my comment would be, I totally respect that the BIA has a particular geographic area and they do an amazing job. And we've leveraged the expertise of the team there for other events and activation. But we've also broadened out of the great themes between culture days and what we're doing as a city staff, but also leveraging that. And I would love to see some consideration, or at least knowing if it's not in scope, of how do we bring some of the, and I'll call it more simple activities, out of the downtown and into different parks and green spaces like Lawn Chair Luminata, where we can activate access to those types of fun pieces for those that may not get all the way downtown, but can actually have an easy ripple effect with probably not a lot of heavy logistics or major events, but where we're starting to see the spread and scale of that could be reasonably done or considered.
So I think a couple of things. One, conversation that our clerk and GM Schmidt and I were having was about like what the city's capability is inside of this concert series / downtown festivals conversations. Do we have the resources inside to do what we're giving the resources outside? And, I think that there's going to be an internal conversation, quite frankly. I wasn't planning about talking about this tonight, but there's going to be an internal conversation about like, how do we use our resources most effectively? Is this the most effective way to do it? We know that we already have to do December 31st. We do Canada Day. We do all these things around the city, and maybe that there is a better way to invest our dollars. I think we also have to remember that when it comes to specifically the concert series, because those dollars for the I'm going to say this wrong, bollards. Did I say that right? Bollards? Bollards. I should go back to high school. I think the conversation is not just about the concert series, it's also about the other events that happen. The last thing we want, we all know, I remember we all had a conversation about this, last thing we want is for somebody with either ill intent or mental health issues or whatever it is that results, being able to drive down a pedestrian road. And we had that conversation around this table. So I think that there's part of this that's about operations and about who's doing what and who's most effective at it. Part of it is about capital spends to ensure that the operating dollars we're sending out the door, if it's $500,000 to put these permanent ones, or at least ones that are semi-permanent in, versus $100,000 a year in putting in temporary, like there's a big ROI there on moving ahead with it. So, I think that there's a lot of different pieces to this. Over the next year, we'll have staff figure out if this is the most effective way to spend these dollars, and if there's ways to use the dollars internally to then have not just the effect on the downtown, but also have those events happening elsewhere. So that's a long answer to a short question, but I'm going to go to Councillor Hamilton, who I had next, and then I'm going to come back to Councillor Corser.
Thank you. Actually, my questions were posed by Councillor Kungl, so nothing further. I can say, can I have a comment, or am I supposed to only ask a question and comment? I guess just a comment, getting this half an hour ago. My question was similar to Councillor Kungl's, is how much of this is to like a deficit to recoup what was lost versus how much is net new? And you guys kind of answered it, that's a balance of both. I guess just a bit more detail and seeing how much of a deficit was it and how much are we actually looking at net new activities. And for me, one-time funding, like I'm just wondering, is there going to be a strategy or plan in place so that we're not having the exact same conversation next year? So fully supportive of the work that we're doing down there, just wanting to make sure we're not going down a rabbit hole where next year they're coming back asking for $750,000 and then $1 million. So if you can elaborate on that, it'd be helpful.
Yeah, I'll jump on this. So well, first of all, the conversation we just had in terms of like looking at internal versus external on how we plan these things out. So let's get that information. I think there should be a report at some point. The BIA is also going to be coming and presenting the results of this summer as well, which I think is part of the transparency piece we need to make sure gets out there. And then we'll be able to go forward from there. We had a conversation this afternoon, Andre and I, with the mayor of Newmarket, and this idea, like what had been moved about stopping one service that wasn't making sense, and then putting it into a bit of a what was it? Music festival, and then he talked about what they did in Newmarket, and they have imitation bands. What do you call that? Cover. Push the button to get the answer. Cover bands, and they have a sponsorship of that event of close to $100,000 from a major bank. And so I think what we had last year was, hey, we think it's going to cost this. And then council said, every time you close a road, you have to have these anti-barriers, okay? Which was not even in the original estimate. So you can just go put $100,000 onto that right away, or 90 or 80 or whatever it was. And then on top of that, kind of feeling out the way. So as we look forward, number one, we should know what the costs are now. Number two, we're getting at talent earlier. Number three, we need to know, let's pretend this was the best job. Let's pretend that it was the lowest cost it could be, by making moves on the capital side to try to reduce costs year over year, and also having our staff make sure that this is the most effective way. I think we'll be able to come back 6, 8, 10 months from now and go, this is how we proceed forward. But if there's a request next year for $475,000, like I won't be supporting it. There's I think an amount that makes sense, and there needs to be sponsorship put in place like there is in other cities. Councillor Corser.
Thank you, Mayor Nuttall. I just trying to piece together the information that was put forward about the security bollards. Okay. I remember that myself and Councillor Harvey had put a motion forward about staff to investigate those bollards, and I don't remember anything coming back on that from staff investigation, unless I missed it. Like, that's quite possible, but.
Mr. CAO.
Thank you, Mayor Nuttall. Through you to Councillor Corser. Councillor Corser, the motion directed staff to include as a potential intake in the budget secure bollards, which would deal with the terrorist type activity that happened on the west coast of Canada. Staff have done a fair amount of work on that. It is a very broad spectrum, which is very expensive. Instead of providing it as an intake, staff are going to report back singularly with staff report and lay out the comprehensive approach council may want to consider as it relates to security of those types of events. So it won't be as an intake as part of the budget, as you can see. It'll be a standalone item for council to consider in the new year.
Yeah, because I remember that conversation, part of that conversation was the mobility of those to be able to be moved to different areas if necessary across the city for different events in future. So that was part of, I was wondering if the expense was not just for the downtown core, but for a use across our whole city, which might have at an event, the bollards, the permanent bollards for downtown, which is an excellent idea for any event. I'm just wondering if the cost was considered for the whole entire city of what would cost to do that kind of security or that kind of mitigation of a risk in other events across the city.
Through you, Mayor Nuttall, to Councillor Corser. Councillor Corser, I think you've articulated the complexity of the issue, which is cheap and cheerful and big and safe. and the whole spectrum in between those, and the costs and the deployment, and frankly, the amount of staff you need to manage a program to effectively provide that level of protection that could be considered. And that will be a council decision, but staff need additional time to really sort of paint that portrait for council to render a decision on if they want to invest that money, where they want to invest that money, what that program looks like. So that would be something that council should expect in the new year. It just wasn't feasible to do it as part of a simple intake for the budget.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much.
Okay. Any other questions or comments? Councilor Rietma.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And very quickly, we've had 1 year of experience, and we all should learn from our experience. And I think this is exactly what we're doing here. I think one of the things that's really hasn't been mentioned yet is the fact that we had a whole series of emerging local artists that performed. And I think that's a great benefit to our city. They got a little bit of exposure, got some experience as well. And I think that anything that we do to help emerging artists is well worth it. So,
Thank you, Councillor. You've already spoken.
I just wanted to make a comment. Emerging artists that you got on stage.
There was a little bit of comments that wasn't suitable for TV, so we're not going to let the microphone go on. If I just really speak to this very quickly, and then we'll go. I really think that the idea that we have opportunities for the local artists, for bringing in a concert series, for having a butter tart festival, because I love butter tarts, and I'm not the antique car guy, although I was there too, because it was something to do that day in our beautiful downtown. I think these are very good things for our city that we've talked about for many, many, many years and just not done. And now we've had a year to go through it, to take a look at it, to see what works, what doesn't. I think that we've put safety first, which is a really, really good thing. It's also a really, really, really expensive thing. And, that's kind of why we're here, right? Like, to make sure that these events that are good for the public happen, they happen in a safe way, it's a happy environment. And that's what I saw this summer. I went down to 2 out of the 4 of them, really enjoyed myself. Brett Kissel put on a good show, I put on a good show, and we all had a really good evening. I didn't see any bad behavior at the concerts at all. Don't see bad behavior at the movie nights. These are good, wholesome family opportunities. It is what we want. It's who we want downtown, and hopefully those individuals will come a couple hours early and buy a coffee and check out the new stores and shops in downtown, because there are some great places to buy different things downtown, and we move forward. And I think we're now at a point where there's one person said it to me today, there's a product, right? Like, we had an idea last year, now there's a product, and we know that the combination of these events are bringing in hundreds of thousands of people, and we need whoever it is, the BIA, to go out and now market and sell the opportunity to sponsors to come in. And I think we can look back at this time next year and say either, hey, it was a success, we learned from the mistakes, and we move on. I think we've learned from the mistakes on undershooting the security budget. We're trying to right-size that now, and hopefully others do as well. So with that, I'll call the vote. All those in favor? And it carries. And now we'll go to the budget vote as a 3 times amended. Is there any other amendments to the budget? Seeing none. All those in favor? And it carries. Give me one moment here. My daughter asked that I put this on my desk tonight, so I did that. We will go into inquiries, because there's no deferred business direct motions or presentations. Any inquiries this evening? Announcements, I see Councillor Kungl just roaring to go. But Deputy Mayor, do you have any announcements first?
I don't.
Councillor Kungl.
If I may, I think you covered most of mine last week, but I did just want to extend a significant thank you to all businesses and residents across the city that did support the Poppy campaign. That probably stood out for a couple of hours in the cold if you didn't have the chance to be in Costco or anywhere. But again, many doors opened across the city for businesses, so thank you for that. And just want to pass along that note of appreciation for those that were able to make it to the cenotaph or participate and support in some way.
Yes, thank you. And it was a wonderful campaign. And I think I do want to take the opportunity to thank perhaps Mr. Schmidt, if you can put this through. I believe this is you. All of the work that was done for Tuesday, for yesterday, for downtown. Am I in the right place? Perfect. Kind of, sort of. It's a group of people. Perfect. Shared responsibility. I love that term. It means everybody's accountable and no one's accountable. All the folks that contributed to downtown, it was perfect down there yesterday. It was clean. It was well organized. The roads were shut well in advance. The parading area was fantastic. I had nothing but rave reviews from all of the folks down there, all of the veterans of the Legion afterwards. It was, and the Army, Navy, Air Force. It was very, very, very well done. Probably the best I've seen it in my years. So thank you so much to all the folks who made Remembrance Day happen downtown, including the Legion, who I think organizes it. Pardon?
I was going to say, can you improve the weather next time?
Yeah, that's a federal thing, as you know. Yeah, yeah. When it's good, they get the credit. When it's bad, they get the credit. Okay, so I have no other announcements this, oh, sorry, Councillor Harris. I do not, would you like to? No, but you can.
Thank you, Mayor Nuttall. So we have a group from our sister city of Saginaw, Michigan here as we speak. So I just wanted to make a note that they are here and we're pleased that they're with us. We have Brendan Hosbeck, the city fire chief. So I know he's looking forward to meeting our chief tomorrow. We have Ben Weiland, who is the CDAM Development Fellow. Amy Bidwell, who is the Saginaw Transit Authority Regional Services Director. I know she's meeting with Mr. Forsyth tomorrow as well. We have Brandon Keenan Lachelle from their Parks Director. We have Steve Hensley, their Community Economic Development Director. Jill Shorkey, who's with the Go Great Lakes Bay Regional Convention and Visitors Bureau. And Mandy Von Otegan, who's also with the Great Lakes Regional Visitors and Convention Bureaus, and pardon me, and also Victor French from Saginaw Valley State University, who's Director of Internal Admissions. So we are really excited that they're here. So those of you who track along our international relations efforts, Mayor Nuttall signed the agreement with Saginaw last June. And so we're excited, and I know he's a big fan of Mayor Moore, who couldn't be with us this time, but really great timing to have the Saginaw group here, and they'll be touring the city and meeting with our leaders of various departments to make sure that we can look at ways to learn from each other, share, collaborate, and create synergies between Saginaw, Michigan and Barrie, Ontario. So thank you, Mayor Nuttall.
Thank you so much. Appreciate that, Councillor Harris. Any other last minute announcements before we go on? I'm going to be a little bit liberal with the announcement time and just remind everybody that all those dollars that are going towards these items in the downtown, if you know someone who stayed at a hotel recently, thank them, because the City of Barrie taxpayers don't have to pay for them. It's out-of-towners who are coming to use our hotels. And so to the hotel owners, thank you for being in existence. And to those who stay at them, thank you for funding this beautiful concert series downtown. We'll now move into the bylaws, which I think there's only one.
Moved by myself, second by Councillor Negussi. Leave be granted to introduce the following bill, and this bill be read a first, second, and third time this day and finally passed. Bill 118, the confirmation bylaw.
It's moved by Deputy Mayor Thompson, seconded by Councillor Negussi, the confirmation bylaw that leave be granted to introduce this bill and the following bill be read a first, second, and third time this day and finally passed Bill 118. Any questions or comments with regards to the confirmation bylaw? Seeing none, all those in favor? It carries. Do I have a motion to adjourn? Councillor Negussi and Councillor Corser. All those in favor?